Are you the guy in the gym that throws kicks in sparring only to have them blocked, dodged, or worse yet, caught and swept by more experienced partners? If so, this video is for you. I'm going to teach you 6 ways to throw kicks in a way that will land more cleanly, along with one bonus that you'll want to learn, so make sure you stick around till the end. I'm going to cover both a Western and a Thai perspective on this. It's going to be some good stuff. Okay, the first thing I want to go over is what I consider the Western perspective. If you're taught in America or Europe, whether Muay Thai or kickboxing, what they will teach you is to never throw a kick without setting it up with punches beforehand. This is a good tactic and it's reliable. It's something that you want to learn right off the bat, I would say day one before you get into sparring. So rather than blindly throwing kicks, you want to first distract the opponent with things up top, such as combinations of hand techniques. So an easy one, jab, cross, hook, low kick. You can do the same thing, 2 different levels. You can throw body kicks, head kicks, doesn't make much of a difference. The point is that rather than throwing the kick right off the bat, which is a technique that they're often going to see coming, you distract them first with things up top. Now, you'd be surprised how well this works. Even if the person knows that you're likely to throw a kick at the end of the combination, there's often a lot going on up top that they need to deal with, and you can beat them to the punch, landing that low kick, body kick, head kick, whatever, if you throw something earnest up top. One of the combinations I love for this, I took from my kickboxing coach back in America, TJ Kular of Kular Kickboxing, is a 3-2 low kick, but he throws it in a specific way. So rather than power hook, power cross, low kick, it's a little more slick. So he throws the hook, stepping and angling out. That's the initial part. When I'm throwing this combination, I'm working my way to the side of the opponent here. So first, it's a hook. Whether you're throwing thumb up, thumb down, doesn't matter. And the cross, rather than landing a power cross, it's just in their face to blind them and to work as a frame. The idea is these 2 punches help disguise the fact that you're angling out, and it keeps something in their vision so you can land that low kick reliably. You can use the same combination for a body kick as well, but it just flows so sweet into that low kick. Again, again. One more time, hook, cross to distract, low kick. But you notice I've got this gallop going. So really what I'm doing with no hands is I'm angling, landing that low kick. Remember, keep the hands in their face, it'll land more often. All right, on to tactic number 2. In the West, they'll often tell you not to kick unless you disguise it with punches first, but if you go over to Thailand and actually spar with some Thais, you'll realize that these guys are fast enough and slick enough to land kicks, often with no setup at all. You need to build up to this though. So the first thing you've got to do in order to get to this level of technique is you need to trim the fat off of your technique and get rid of any excess movement and get rid of any tension and tells that can let the person know that it's coming. So obviously this is nothing new. You want to get rid of telegraphs, but you might be doing it without thinking about it, right? So when I first got to Thailand and I was training with Crew Jet at Revolution Muay Thai, he pointed out that I was often trying to get too much power out of my kick, and as I was doing my step out, I was sinking and I was lowering to load up to explode upward on that kick. Now it does provide you a lot of power, but every time I stepped and squeezed into the ground, he could see it coming. So what he would do instead is he would stay nice and upright, nice and relaxed, and he would just step and his center of gravity would not shift at all. It was just nice and relaxed, nice and rhythmic. His goal was speed, right? Rather than stepping and trying to get extra power. So don't worry about power. Power is good. There's a time and place for it, but you want to learn speed first. So when you're doing your step out, try not to tell too much with that step. Just a nice, simple step, a little shift. Nice and relaxed, that'll help you out, just like you're walking. You're not walking around day to day like this, right? No, it's too much movement. So first thing, try to trim the fat off your technique and start just with a tiny, soft, smooth step out. It'll do wonders. Now along these same lines, a lot of people are taught and they train to bounce off of this rear foot to add extra power into the kick. Now I'm not saying this is wrong, but this is something you want to learn later on. So stick around, I'll talk about that more later in the video. But for now, no bouncing, no deep springing steps, just nice and soft, nice and rhythmic, flow into it. So no surprise, tactic number 2 is to smooth out your technique and whittle it down to the base components to show as little as possible to your opponent ahead of time, so that way they're not as quick to recognize it and counter. On to tactic number 3. This is something I learned from working with my Muay Thai coach back in the States, James Knight. This guy's an absolute beast. What I realized was you're always gonna have a little bit of telegraph in the eyes of an experienced opponent. So what is helpful is if you can make several different attacks look like the same attack. So even if they see it coming, they don't necessarily know what it is that's coming. What I like to do here is make many of my kicks start the same way. So if I'm up here, I'm gonna start with that smooth step out, just like we talked about on tactic number 2, but this could mean a body kick. This same smooth step out could mean a low kick. This same smooth step out could mean a head kick. This same smooth step out could mean a rear teep. This same smooth step out can even equal something fancy. There are many different options you can do from the same setup. And what is beautiful about this is by doing the step out and getting our shoulder outside of their shoulder, we've got plenty of power for the rotation of our round kicks, but we also are bringing our rear leg closer to the target, so it needs to travel a shorter distance to land in the first place. So if I'm here, my leg needs to come in at this angle to land, where if I line that leg up with the target, it now travels straight forward. No different with the teep. So what James used to get me with is he would step, throw a round kick. He would step, throw a round kick. Pretty soon I would start to see the step and I'd recognize it by getting this block. And then he would do the same step and just come straight in, blast me with the teep. Now you can get fancy with it and do it the way Sanchai does it, where he gets you blocking and you can fake it and redirect it and throw it forward. But you don't even need to most of the time. If they are here, they're open in the middle. So just by taking the step and lining up that teep, boom, right up the center. Boom, 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 boom. Same thing can be said for punches. I can do that same step out for a cross, overhand, rear uppercut. So many options that you can do from that one step. So even if the person sees it coming, that doesn't mean they know it's coming. It could be any number of things. Once you start to overwhelm them, you'll start landing. All right, on to tactic number 4. You ever notice when you watch videos of Thai fighters in Thailand doing technical sparring with no pads, they tend to focus primarily on kicks? Probably 90% kicks when you watch those videos, and they keep them nice and soft. What you may not realize is that they're trying to focus on rhythm. That's the idea. They're trying to find the right time to land their kicks. And they will often do this by setting up the partner with feints and offset rhythm, right? So rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, keeping that same rhythm, just like any other type of fighting art, boxing is known for this as well. You can offset it, right? So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's what they're expecting, right? 1, 2, 3. You can speed up a little bit. You can work those half beats, right? So it doesn't always need to be steady rhythm. You can throw off that rhythm by changing partway through. And better yet, once you start to apply that tactic, you can feint to get a reaction out of them and then take advantage of that reaction to land what you're actually trying to land. So good thing for you to practice at home, rhythm. And when you're ready to speed up that rhythm, work that half beat, I'm going to step and feint that right kick. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right there. And what we're trying to do is we're getting comfortable with our partner. See that 1, 2, 3, 4 rhythm? If you throw on rhythm all the time, they're gonna be able to predict you easily. So what you want is you wanna feint that kick and you wanna get this reaction. And what's gonna happen is they're gonna either stay up here or they're gonna rise and bring it down. You've got two options from this point, right? So we're here, I fake it, and if they're ready for it, they're gonna generally shin block, and then you wait for them to set it down to land your actual kick. Liam Harrison's an expert at this, and you'll see it with his low kicks often. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, up. Then there's the real attack. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, up. Right? Now this is great whenever you start torturing people with low kicks, because if you're blasting low kicks, generally they're gonna start blocking, especially if you're landing and causing pain, and you can wait for them to set their foot down and chop them right as that leg gets heavy. You can do the same thing and time it right as they set the foot down. If you happen to run into a shin and work that sweep, you'll see people kick and hook and sweep underneath. Point is, I'm not just kicking rhythmic every time. Sometimes you're working in feints, you wait, boom, you wait for the right moment. Now, if you're working with a partner that doesn't buy it and they're just sitting here waiting, when they're on one foot, hit them with something to knock them down. So if I feint and they're on one foot and they stay there, that's fine. I'm gonna shove them. Or I feint and they stay on one foot, that's fine. I'm gonna hit them. I feint, they stay on one foot, teep them. Point is, feint, get a reaction, take advantage of that reaction. Feint, get a reaction, take advantage of that reaction. So offset the rhythm with feints. You can step out, turn your hip, you can do both. You can feint with your arms. All that works. Play with that, see how it does for you. Tactic number 5 to land kicks cleanly. Blind them with your arm. What I mean is, if I'm here guarded, rather than just stepping in, throwing my body kick, in this case it's that rear side right kick, I'm going to reach out with this rear arm and I'm going to put it in their face. What that's going to do is that's going to cover their vision for a moment. Might get them to shell up, which is nice. Both of those allow for the opportunity of the kick. So when you're practicing your kicks on the bag, it's okay to work your combos, but if you're working the kicks just for the sake of the kicks, don't stand here and just throw the kick. Stand here, just throw the kick. Start working using that hand as a blinder. So when you step in, boom, step in. It also helps as a rangefinder. You can make sure that you're not too far away. If you're here and you're touching on their guard, you're in a good spot to land that kick. Another thing, when you get a little slicker, you can use this frame to pull them into the kicks that you want. So this is something that you saw Superbond do to Giorgio Petrosian. He reached across, knocked his head over into the upcoming head kick.
Just a split moment, and here's that head kick right behind it, bang, landing, and it all is concentrated right.
Really slick, right? So, easy way to do this, keep the jab in their face, keep the long guard in their face. When I'm ready to throw that rear side kick, touch and kick. Touch, kick. Now you can do the same thing with your switch kicks on the lead arm, or step in with that lead kick. Rear side, lead side, keep something in their face. Just remember, touch and kick. You'll be surprised how well this works. And once you get good at blinding and framing, it sets up a world of different techniques. All right, tactic number 6, to land kicks cleanly. This is my personal favorite. Since I've only got a punching bag here and not a partner, you're gonna need to visualize a little bit to see what I'm saying, okay? Now this works great, especially if you have someone that catches everything and dumps you and catches everything and dumps you. It's really frustrating. So if you kick at the right time, you can land cleanly without getting countered. And what I do is I use my kicks to counter punches. Favorite ways to do this are to counter a jab or a rear straight with a low kick, or to counter a jab or a rear straight with body kicks, either left or right. So if you imagine I've got my opponent here in front, when he goes to throw a jab, more often than not, they need to step to clear that range. When they step to clear that range, even if their balance is good, they're gonna set a little bit of weight down in that lead leg, which is the perfect opportunity to chop that leg because they're not gonna check you. So when you're waiting, that jab comes in, parry it down, you catch the jab, and depending on the range of the opponent, you might need to step in, you might need to step out, you might need to step back if they got long arms, but I parry, chop. So they come in, they step, get parried down, in comes the low kick. So you're waiting, punch comes, parry, chop. Now, what I like to do here, got this from Damian Trainer, and Matt Sobek over at Tiger Muay Thai likes to work this as well, is to keep this rear frame in their face when you're throwing a low kick. So what I like to do is I pop the jab down, and if I'm keeping back, that's one thing. I can step back and chop, keep my eyes open for any potential counterpunch. But anyone that's sparred for a while, especially with MMA guys, know that taking the low kick and coming back with a rear straight is a thing. So pop the jab, hit the low kick, but keep this arm in their face as a frame to either stuff that rear arm and stop it from coming forward at all, or to perhaps glance it so you got a little bit of head movement and that arm goes over the top. So when I'm throwing my low kick, I'm not throwing it here with my head straight on the center line. I'm stopping the jab, and whether I'm stepping forward, stepping back, or whatever, based on the range, my head is coming offline, and I've got that rear arm as a frame. So they're coming in, you're waiting, keeping your range, pop, kick. Range, pop, kick. So you can practice this on the bag, keeping your range, pretend you're catching a jab, and then as you throw your low kick, cross frame here. Range, pop. Catch the jab. So that arm up in front, especially at low kick range, is a great thing to do, especially against a taller opponent, because they can reach you with that rear straight. Now the body kick, if you do correctly, is gonna have a little bit more range. So what I do is I wait for them to throw either the jab or the straight, and I kick to the open side ribs. When their arms are extended, you've got a free shot at their ribs, which is especially nice if you're going for the liver, but also they're not going to have their arm extended and bring it back and catch you in time. It's just not gonna happen. They're gonna catch you when their arm's already close and they only have to make a small movement. If you can time this, nail the ribs, they're gonna be too late to snatch that leg up, especially if you throw enough momentum behind it to hit their body and knock them back a little bit. That's what we're going for. So assuming I've got the straight coming, ribs are open on this side, I wait for that motion to start, I fade back slightly with a switch kick, and I hit hard on that liver. Notice head's fading back just a hair. I'm not throwing my weight backwards to be off balance, I'm just keeping my range. So if I'm here where I could get punched, I'm making space. So that way I'm using the length of my leg to stop them from reaching me. So imagine this right punch is coming. It's a great counter strike. Right punch is coming. Works great. Now you can do the same thing with your rear kick as well. Generally, if I'm doing this against orthodox fighters, I'm gonna do it in a way where I'm kicking them more forward, trying to shove them backwards. It's kind of like a knee shield to stop them from getting closer, because I don't want them to be able to reach me with the punch. So if I'm throwing this rear kick, I'm coming in. If I'm throwing the switch kick, I'm trying to knock them onto their heels. Either way, target the ribs, and you don't have to even guess right. If you throw it to the open ribs, that's perfect. But if you throw a switch kick when they're throwing a jab, you can still hit this blocking arm and you can still knock them backwards, which helps prevent counters, right? So regardless, you're waiting for a punch, you're nailing some ribs, and you want to knock them backwards. Think about knocking them on their ass. Think about keeping your range with that kick. If you can off balance them with your kick, they're not gonna follow up in time to hit you cleanly. So remember, when they throw a jab, nail them with the low kick. When they throw either one, their ribs are open. If you're throwing to this open side, the front side of their body, think about knocking them on their heels. If you're throwing to the front side of the body, think about driving their ribs through their spine to knock them back, okay? All right, on to the bonus tactic. This one's fun. A lot of people will teach beginners not to do certain things. Now, they do it with the right intentions because they don't want bad habits to be built up, but people end up being raised thinking that certain techniques don't work. For example, that bounce I mentioned earlier, it works at the right time. Techniques that are huge and dangerous, like a flying knee, work at the right time. Jumping elbows, work at the right time. I call these execution techniques. And the reason being, the time you want to use them is when your opponent is off balance and they can't stop you. If I just jump in with a flying knee against someone that knows what they're doing, they'll just keep their distance. If I bounce a kick against someone that knows what they're doing, they're gonna see it coming and block, right? What you do is you knock them on their heels. If you're in a ring, you knock them onto the ropes so they can't go anywhere. You knock them in the corner, you hit them with something saucy, knock them silly. You wait for that moment where they're dazed, right? They're dazed, they're unbalanced. They can't stop you. And that's when you execute them. That's where the power techniques come in. So in general, smooth and fast is a good idea. But if you can off balance them with a teep and they're stumbling back, sure. Follow in with a bounce and a nice heavy kick. That bounce can clear a lot of range too. Right? You do this while they're cornered. You do this while they're off balance. If you're tagging them up, you're staying on balance and you catch them with something hot and you see that look in their eye, you know they're dazed, time to finish them off. That's when you execute them. When you shove them and they're stumbling back, that's when you follow up with the knee. You don't open with these techniques. You don't start the party with these techniques. These techniques are meant to use to close it out, to go out with a bang. So when you're fighting, when you're sparring, stay on balance, stay smart. Don't do any more than you have to do, especially if your opponent's good. However, when you see that moment, you see that look in their eyes, and you know it's go time, then it's time, baby. Get some momentum going. Clear some range. Jumping techniques work wonders when they land. The trick is, how do you make them land? You daze them, you knock them off balance, you get their mind elsewhere, you wait until they're on the edge, and you knock them over the edge, okay? Keep that in mind. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. And if you enjoyed this video and you think it can be helpful for someone else, please share it. Please give the video a like. If you haven't already, get subscribed for more content in the future.